expectations and how they can be helping you or potentially hurting you. And so I want to start by telling you the story of a famous psychological experiment that they did now 40 or 50 years ago. It was unlike a lot of the psychological experiments that were going on at the time, in that it was a single grade school teacher. She essentially separated her students into two arbitrary groups. Half of her class was in group 1, the other half was in group 2. Now, what the difference between these two groups was how this particular teacher interacted with the students. In one group, she treated them with high expectations. She let them know that she believed they were capable of achieving very great scores, high performance on all of the school-related tasks. And so she treated them as such, with those high expectations. She wouldn't accept lower work than she thought they could do. She would really push and drive them to achieve more. In the second group, that teacher treated those students as low expectation. So she didn't expect as much high quality of work for them. She would accept lower performance from them without giving them as hard of a time or without pushing them as hard. She basically treated those students as if they were not capable of achieving more. And what they found throughout the period of time of this teacher treating these students in this way is that the students in the group that she expected more from achieved more. And the students that she expected less from and treated them as such achieved less. And this was independent of their actual ability levels. Because again, these groups were separated arbitrarily. There was no mention of intelligence, of demographic, of socioeconomic status. There was nothing to differentiate them other than just randomly being assigned to one group or the other. And yet, in the group that was placed high expectations, they achieved more as a result of that. And the results from this research and subsequent research that has followed is an effect that they now call the Pygmalion Effect. And the Pygmalion Effect is essentially that we will rise to the expectations placed on us. So if there are people in our life who have high expectations, who believe that we are capable of achieving great things, we tend to take those beliefs and that encouragement, internalize it, and then are more driven to achieve greater accomplishments. Conversely, we will also fall to the level of expectations placed on us. So if we're surrounded by people, or we have people in our life who don't expect much at all out of us in terms of our personal achievements, our career growth, our familial life, if there are people in our life who don't expect anything from us, we tend to fall into mediocrity and are not as driven to achieve more because we internalize those same beliefs. If they don't believe we can accomplish great things, we internalize that, and we too tend to believe we're not capable of achieving great things. And as you might imagine, that prevents us from even trying to achieve those things. This Pygmalion Effect really speaks to the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people, whether it's your fitness goals, trying to lose weight, trying to build muscle, trying to get healthy, trying to be more physically active, or maybe you have an event you're trying to do, a Tough Mudder race, a Spartan race, a half marathon, a 5K, whatever it is. If you're trying to achieve these goals, surrounding yourself with people who have done these things, who encourage you to live up to those same expectations, people who push you and believe in you to achieve more and to live up to your full potential, is going to drastically increase the odds that you are actually successful at achieving those goals and that you continue to work hard and put effort into achieving those goals. But if we're constantly surrounded by people who don't have that belief in us. Maybe it's someone who constantly is speaking negatively about the goals that you have. Maybe they're discouraging you, or they don't believe that you are going to be able to achieve that, or they think the goal that you have is too difficult to be accomplished. That constant low expectation is going to act as an anchor that prevents you from achieving the things that you want to achieve. So the people you surround yourself with is very, very crucial. This is why having a coach could be so beneficial. Someone who's constantly encouraging you and believing in you and seeing the potential in you is crucial. Mentorship is the exact same way. Having a peer group. This is why group fitness classes are so helpful. This is why being in a group of like-minded people is so helpful. This is also why as we go through life and as we grow, given that we're growing, we tend to outgrow certain people in our life. If we're trying to make progress in our career, in our health, in our relationships, and there are people from our past who are not on that same path of growth, we ultimately will outgrow each other because now you feel the weight of that person pulling you back. When you're headed in a forward direction, they're that anchor that's now keeping you trapped. And really the only way, if they're not growing with you, to get around that is to limit your exposure, which creates that distance where we tend to leave those people in our past. And that's a normal part of the growth process, an unfortunate part of the growth process, but normal nevertheless. So the people we surround ourselves with will set the expectations on us. And depending on those expectations, high or low, we will rise or fall to the level of those expectations placed on us. Now, the interesting thing about this is that's not just straightforward expectations. It's actually all perception based. So it's not the expectations per se. It's the expectations based on our perceptions of the people giving or setting those expectations. Here's what I mean. What they found in further research is that we will rise or fall to the level of expectations given to us by people that have credibility and authority over us. This is why in our early childhood years, the expectations of our teachers and our parents is so profound. Because in those early developmental years, our teachers and our parents are the two adults that we have the most influence over us. And so as a child, their expectations or their belief in you ultimately determines your own internalized view of your achievement level. Someone who's credible and authority and has authority, or we perceive to be credible and have authority, if they express doubt in our ability or they set low expectations, that is going to hinder us more than a stranger that we don't know having those same low expectations of us. More on that in a moment. But before we move on, this is really interesting how it plays out, right? And here's the way I think about it. In our early childhood years, our teachers and our parents have the most influence on setting those expectations, high achievement or low achievement. But it's interesting because I think we all know, I personally know, I know individuals who by the time they were 16 years old were probably more capable of being a functioning adult than their parents were. Because unfortunately, not everyone's, as they become adults, grow into the best adults. Because there's a lot of multifaceted parts of this. So that speaks to being careful who we give that credibility and that authority over those views of us. Who we allow to set the expectations for us becomes increasingly important. So here's other examples of credibility and authority. If you're applying for a job and let's say you've gone through med school and you're becoming a doctor and you're applying for a job at a hospital. If there's a world-renowned doctor in your field at that hospital and they interview you and they tell you you're not cut out for this job, you're never going to make it here, you just don't have the skills for this position, that is going to hit you harder in terms of your belief and your ability to rise to the expectations of that role than somebody who A, is not a doctor, and B, is not a well-known influential figure in that field, someone who you respect for their credibility. If your high school friend tells you that you're never going to be able to get that position, someone who is certainly not a doctor and maybe doesn't have a college degree, if they're telling you that you can't do that job, it doesn't have the same impact on you because they don't have the same level of credibility and authority to actually influence your perceptions of your own achievement. Okay? So, to recap thus far, the Pygmalion Effect. We will rise or fall based on the levels of expectations placed on us by the individuals in our life, in our circle, who we perceive to have both credibility, authority, and trust in. If we perceive the people in our circle to have those qualities, then their expectations on us will impact the achievement level that we ultimately accomplish. Okay? Now, there is one situation relative to the perception of this that can actually reverse the effect of the Pygmalion Effect, which is somebody who's criticizing you who doesn't have credibility and who doesn't have authority, right? So that high school friend telling you you'll never get the doctor job when they've never even been to med school. Somebody of low credibility and low authority who's criticizing or setting low expectations on you can actually reverse the effect. Instead of falling to low expectations for someone who doesn't have those qualities, we'll actually work harder to prove them wrong. This is where it gets really, really interesting. Someone who we don't perceive to have credibility and authority over us, who sets low expectations on our ability levels, can actually reverse the effect, and we'll work even harder to rise to higher expectations. We can achieve more because of those individuals criticizing us. And so this is called the underdog effect, this concept of wanting to prove people wrong. But it's very specific when this effect reverses and becomes positive, or if it'll ruin our confidence level. And it comes back to the perceptions of credibility and authority and trust. Okay? So if a random internet troll criticizes our ability to be successful at something, that, instead of lowering the expectations we place on ourselves, has the potential to actually increase the expectations we have, because we want so badly to prove them wrong via the underdog effect that we might actually achieve more in pursuit of that. The thing that overarches all of these concepts, the Pygmalion Effect, rising and falling based on the expectations placed on us, the perceptions of credibility, authority, and trust influencing the strength of that effect. Somebody who is high credible, high authority, high trust, who places high expectations, will achieve more. Somebody who's high credibility, high authority, high trust, who places low expectations, will achieve less, will fall to those expectations. Somebody who's low in those three perceptions, those low credibility, low authority, low trust, who criticizes us, low expectations, we will achieve more as a result of that. So the interplay of these, and most importantly, the fact that it's all based on our perceptions, is incredibly interesting and also pretty profound if we truly think about it. We will rise or fall to the levels of expectations placed on us by the people we perceive in our circle to have high credibility, high authority, and high trust. So it stands to reason, A, that we can do ourselves a favor by surrounding ourselves with people who actually believe we can achieve great things, by people who place high expectations on us. Because the higher the expectations, the more we're likely to put in the effort and to internalize that and believe in ourselves to achieve more. And so if in your life you find that you're struggling to achieve the goals that you have for yourself, whether it's fitness related, whether it's career related, whether it's in your personal life, whatever it is, if there's elements of your life that you wish you could improve and build upon, but you find yourself struggling, I would encourage you to sit down and really think about what kind of expectations are being placed on you in your life from the people that you're closest to. Are they encouraging you and pushing you to achieve those things? Or, in the worst case scenario, are they actively detracting from those things by making you doubt yourself, by discouraging you, by acting as a distraction from those things? Or in the middle, are they just unaware that they're doing those hindrances, right? Maybe they're net neutral. Maybe they don't really believe in you. Maybe they just don't understand the goals that you have. Ask yourself these questions and start to ponder what that landscape looks like for you, because it really does make such a big impact. Because at the end of the day, we will rise or we will fall to the expectations placed on us.